The massive display screens at the Galactic Racing Federation headquarters flashed with breaking news. For the first time in history, Earth had entered the most advanced ship race, MASR, the most prestigious racing event in the known universe. A human vessel. How quaint, laughed Director Wilson, a tall blue-skinned alien, his three eyes blinking in amusement as he reviewed the entry form. The other council members shared knowing looks around the crystal conference table. On Earth, Captain Tom stood proudly beside the Thunderchild, humanity's first deep space racing vessel. The ship wasn't pretty. Its hull was rough and functional, covered in heat shields and radiator panels. Unlike the sleek alien ships that resembled artistic sculptures, the Thunderchild looked like it had been built in someone's backyard. "Sir, the aliens are making fun of our ship design again," said Mike, the chief engineer, showing Tom his tablet. The galactic news feeds were filled with jokes about the primitive fusion drive and outdated chemical thrusters the humans were bringing to the race. Tom smiled and patted the ship's hull. "Let them laugh. They don't know what we've done with this old tech. The Thunderchild might use nuclear fusion instead of quantum drives or antimatter engines, but his team had spent years perfecting their design." The day of ship inspection arrived. The Thunderchild stood in line behind vessels that looked like they came from science fiction dreams. There was the Crystal Arrow from the Centauri Alliance, its hull transparent and flowing like liquid glass. Next to it waited the Quantum Streak, its form barely visible as it bent light around itself. When it was Earth's turn, the inspectors walked around the Thunderchild with expressions of disbelief. One of them, a small green alien named Pip, couldn't contain himself. "You're using rotating sections for artificial gravity," Pip squeaked, checking his instruments again, "and radiator panels for heat management. Everyone else uses gravity manipulators and quantum heat sinks." "Sometimes the old ways work best," Tom replied calmly. His crew tried not to laugh as the inspectors discovered more primitive systems, manual backup controls, chemical reaction wheels for turning, and actual windows instead of holographic displays. The news spread quickly through the racing community. Bets started flowing, most predicting the Thunderchild wouldn't even finish the race. The odds against Earth were 1,000,000 to 1. That evening, as the crews gathered for the pre-race briefing, Tom overheard two alien captains talking. "Did you see their fusion drive? It's like bringing a steam engine to a quantum race," one said, their tentacles waving in amusement. "I heard they still use human pilots instead of AI navigation," the other replied. "They'll never survive the asteroid maze." Tom's crew looked nervous, but he gathered them together in their hotel room. "Listen up," he said, spreading out the racecourse maps. "They think we're primitive. They think we're stupid. But while they rely on their fancy AI and quantum systems, we've got something better." "What's that, Captain?" asked Mike. Tom grinned. "Human creativity. And tomorrow, we're going to show them exactly why that's more valuable than all their advanced technology combined." As night fell over the spaceport, the Thunderchild sat quietly among its glamorous competitors. Tomorrow would change everything. The universe was about to learn an important lesson about underestimating humans and their primitive technology. The morning of race day brought chaos to the Thunderchild's hangar. Mike was under the fusion core, making last-minute adjustments, while the rest of the crew ran final checks on their outdated systems. "Hey, Tom," called Jack, the ship's navigator. "Come look at this." He pointed to his screen showing scans of their competitors. "These alien ships don't even have backup manual controls. Everything's run by AI." Tom leaned over the display, his eyes narrowing. "Interesting. They're so confident in their advanced technology that they've removed the pilot from the equation entirely." The hangar doors slid open, revealing a group of alien journalists. Their recording devices floated around the Thunderchild, capturing footage of what they called the cosmic joke of the race. One reporter, a tall being with metallic skin, approached Tom. "Captain, how does it feel knowing your primitive vessel will be competing against ships that can bend space-time?" Tom smiled politely. "Actually, we're looking forward to it. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one." The reporter's skin flickered in what seemed like amusement. "But your fusion drive, it's practically ancient technology." "Maybe," Mike called from under the engine, covered in grease. "But I bet none of their fancy quantum drives can do this." He pressed a button, and the fusion core hummed to life. The sound was deep and powerful, like a sleeping giant awakening. The alien journalists stepped back, surprised by the raw energy they felt. Their instruments showed power readings they hadn't expected from such primitive technology. Later that day, during the final briefing, the race organizers displayed the course details. The Thunderchild's crew sat in the back, studying the holographic map while other teams boasted about their ship's capabilities. "Our quantum AI can calculate 10 billion trajectories per second," bragged one captain. "Our ship doesn't even need to avoid obstacles. It can phase through them," claimed another. Tom's crew exchanged knowing looks. Their ship might not be able to phase through matter or calculate billions of paths, but they had something unique: human instinct and experience. Back at the Thunderchild, the crew gathered for their final preparations. Lisa, their systems specialist, had modified their old-style radar into something special. "Look here," she explained, pointing to a custom display. "While they're relying on quantum sensors that could fail in high-energy environments, we're using good old-fashioned radio waves with a twist. We've tuned them to work in ways the aliens haven't even considered. Because sometimes the best innovations come from understanding the basics," Tom added, nodding approvingly. As the crew finished their preparations, they heard laughter outside. A group of alien engineers was pointing at the Thunderchild's rotating habitat ring. "They spin it for gravity." "How quaint," one jeered. "At least when our artificial gravity fails, we'll still have something that works," Jack muttered, causing his crewmates to grin. The day ended with final system checks. While other ships glowed with exotic energies and impossible geometries, the Thunderchild sat quietly, its fusion core pulsing with steady determination. "Get some rest," Tom told his crew. "Tomorrow, we'll show them that humanity's primitive technology has a few surprises in store." That night, as stars twinkled above the spaceport, the Thunderchild's crew slept soundly, confident in their ship and their abilities. Sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. The final inspection day started with a parade of ships moving to their starting positions. The Thunderchild moved slowly among the other vessels, its fusion drive humming steadily while alien ships floated silently on their quantum fields. Tom watched from the control room as inspection teams moved through each ship. When they reached the Thunderchild, the lead inspector, a tall alien named Pod, kept checking his instruments in confusion. "This can't be right," Pod muttered, tapping his scanner. "Your heat management system. It's actually more efficient than our standard quantum models." Mike grinned proudly. "Simple thermodynamics. We use the waste heat to generate extra power. No quantum uncertainty to worry about." The inspection team moved through the ship, their confusion growing with each discovery. They found manual backup systems for everything, redundant controls, and even physical buttons and switches, things that had disappeared from alien ships centuries ago. "But what if your human reflexes aren't fast enough?" Pod asked, genuinely concerned as he examined the pilot's controls. Jack, sitting in the pilot's seat, demonstrated their modified control system. "We've enhanced our reaction time with predictive displays. Old tech, new thinking." Outside, a crowd had gathered to watch the inspections. Alien spectators pointed and whispered as they noticed the Thunderchild's rotating sections and radiator panels. But their laughter died when they saw the ship's power readings on the public display screens. "Impossible," one alien engineer said. "Their fusion drive is outputting nearly quantum-level energy densities. How are they doing that with such basic technology?" The Thunderchild's crew kept quiet about their innovations. They had spent years perfecting their primitive systems, pushing the boundaries of what was possible with fundamental physics. During the afternoon, race officials held the final technical briefing. Each ship had to demonstrate their emergency systems. When it was the Thunderchild's turn, they showed something that shocked everyone. "You have actual repair crews," an official asked in disbelief. "Not automated repair systems. Humans are better at improvising repairs," Lisa explained. "No AI can match human creativity in a crisis." The other teams watched with a mix of curiosity and concern as the Thunderchild's crew demonstrated rapid repairs and system bypasses. While alien ships relied on self-repairing nanomaterials, the humans could fix problems with tools and ingenuity. As evening approached, Tom gathered his crew for a final systems check. They worked through their pre-race checklist, while alien crews simply let their AIs handle everything. "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to her scanner. "Those quantum ships, they're all running the same basic AI routines. They think alike." "That's their weakness," Tom replied. "They've forgotten that sometimes you need to think differently to win." The Thunderchild's crew finished their preparations as darkness fell. Through the ship's windows, real glass windows, not holographic displays, they could see the stars shining brightly. "Everything's ready," Mike reported. "The fusion drive is purring like a kitten, and all systems are go." Tom looked at his crew, pride showing in his eyes. "Whatever happens tomorrow, we've already proven something important. We've shown that humanity's approach to space travel isn't primitive, it's proven." As night settled over the spaceport, the Thunderchild stood ready. Tomorrow would test not just their ship, but their entire philosophy of space technology. The race would prove whether understanding basic principles could triumph over quantum complexity. Race morning arrived with a brilliant display of 3 rising suns. The Thunderchild's crew was already awake, performing their final checks, while other ships simply powered up their AIs. "Race rules update," announced the officials through the station speakers. The course details appeared on everyone's screens, making several alien captains gasp. "First leg, through the asteroid maze," Tom read aloud to his crew. "Second leg, solar wind surfing around the twin stars. Final leg, quantum storm navigation." He smiled. "They think this will break us." The alien ships lined up at the starting area, their hulls gleaming with exotic materials. The Thunderchild took its position, looking plain but purposeful among the others. Spectators pointed at the only ship that had visible engines and actual windows. "Did you see the course?" Jack asked, settling into his pilot's seat. "They expect us to navigate through moving asteroids without phase shift technology." "Good," Tom replied. "That means they don't understand what we can do with good old Newtonian physics." The race officials began their final announcements. "All AI systems have received the course parameters. Quantum communication networks are synchronized. Phase shift safeties are engaged." Lisa looked up from her console. "Hey, Captain, notice something? We're the only ones who haven't uploaded the course to an AI." "That's because we're going to do something they've forgotten how to do," Tom said. "We're going to actually fly this ship." The starting countdown began. Through the real glass windows, they could see other ships powering up their quantum drives, their hulls distorting space around them. Mike's voice came through the intercom from engineering. "Fusion drive is hot and ready. All systems showing green. We've got full power. 10 seconds to start," boomed the announcement. Tom looked at his crew. Jack's hands were steady on the manual controls. Lisa monitored their custom sensor array. In engineering, Mike watched the fusion drive's output. 5 seconds. The Thunderchild's engines rumbled to life, a deep physical sound that contrasted with the silent quantum drives around them. 4, 3, 2. "Remember," Tom said quickly, "they're all running similar AI routines. They'll all react the same way to obstacles. But we..." 1. Start. The quantum ships vanished instantly, using their phase shift technology to jump ahead. The Thunderchild's fusion drive roared, pushing the ship forward with raw power. They're already halfway through the asteroid field, Lisa reported, watching their sensors. Perfect, Tom said calmly. Because they're all taking the same I-calculated optimal route. Jack, take us through Path B. Jack grinned, understanding the plan. While the AI ships all followed the mathematically perfect route, the Thunderchild took a different path, one that looked worse on paper but made perfect sense to a human pilot. Look, Lisa pointed at their scanner. Ahead, the quantum ships were bunching up, their AI systems struggling to handle the traffic jam they'd created by all choosing the same route. The Thunderchild accelerated, its fusion drive glowing bright against the starfield. They might not be able to phase through asteroids or bend space, but they had something better, the human ability to see beyond pure mathematics. As they approached the first real challenge of the race, Tom smiled. The other ships might have more advanced technology, but they were about to learn that sometimes the direct approach was the best one. Time to show them what primitive technology can do, he said. Full power ahead. The asteroid maze lived up to its name. Massive rocks tumbled and spun in complex patterns, creating a deadly dance of stone and ice. Through this chaos, the Thunderchild threaded its way forward, guided by human hands and minds. Status update. Tom called out, gripping his chair as they swerved past a spinning boulder. The quantum ships are still bunched up in the optimal route, Lisa reported, watching their custom sensors. Their AI systems are. They're actually fighting each other. Each ship is trying to phase shift through the same space at the same time. Through the bridge windows, they could see flashes of exotic energy as the advanced ships tried to occupy the same positions. Their quantum fields interfered with each other, causing their sophisticated navigation systems to glitch and stutter. Jack's hands flew over the manual controls, making minute adjustments. Good thing we can't phase through matter, he said with a grin. Makes it real simple. Just don't hit anything. The Thunderchild's fusion drive pulsed steadily as they weaved through the asteroid field, while other ships tried to calculate perfect trajectories or phase through matter. The humans simply watched, reacted, and adjusted. Energy spike ahead, Lisa warned. The quantum ships are trying to force their way through. Tom leaned forward. Mike, how's our power looking? Fusion drives running beautifully. Mike's voice crackled through the intercom. And here's the best part. All this dodging is actually helping our heat management. The maneuvering throws are spreading our waste heat perfectly across the radiators. A massive asteroid suddenly spun into their path. Instead of trying to go through it like the quantum ships would, Jack simply went around, using the rock's gravity to help slingshot them forward. Now that's proper flying, Tom said proudly. Lisa, what's our position? You're not going to believe this, she said, double-checking her readings. We're in third place. 2 quantum ships made it through the bunch-up, but the rest are still trapped back there. The crew's excitement was interrupted by a flash of light ahead. One of the leading quantum ships had miscalculated, its phase shift field colliding with an asteroid's magnetic core. The ship spun out of control, its AI struggling to compensate. Jack, Tom said calmly, let's show them some human courtesy. The Thunderchild adjusted course, moving alongside the spinning ship. Their presence, solid and predictable, gave the alien vessel's eye a fixed point to stabilize against. Once stable, the quantum ship zipped away, but not before its crew transmitted a brief message. Thanks. We're approaching the end of the asteroid field, Lisa announced. And you're really not going to believe this. What is it? Tom asked. We're in first place. The other lead ship just dropped out. Their quantum field generator overloaded from all the corrections they had to make. The crew cheered as the Thunderchild emerged from the asteroid field, taking the lid position. Behind them, the quantum ships were still untangling themselves from their traffic jam. Don't celebrate yet, Tom warned, though he was smiling. We've still got the solar wind section ahead, but we've just proved something important. What's that? Jack asked, still focused on his controls. That sometimes the ability to see and respond to what's actually happening is better than trying to calculate what should happen. Tom watched the starfield ahead, and we're about to prove it again. As the Thunderchild approached the twin stars, massive solar flares erupted from their churning surfaces. The ship's sensors lit up with warning signals, detecting intense radiation and magnetic disturbances ahead. Status report. Tom called out as the bridge was bathed in the orange glow of the twin suns. Major solar storm forming, Lisa reported, her eyes glued to the sensor display. It's much bigger than anything in the race specifications. These radiation levels are off the charts. Through the reinforced windows, they could see the quantum ships that had escaped the asteroid field starting to catch up. Their sleek hulls flickered as they approached the solar storm, their quantum field struggling against the intense radiation. "Mike, how are we holding up?" Tom asked through the intercom. "Those old-fashioned radiation shields everyone laughed at." Mike's voice was filled with pride. "They're working perfectly. The heat's actually helping our fusion drive run more efficiently." The first wave of the solar storm hit them. While other ships' quantum fields wavered and sparked, the Thunderchild's solid hull and traditional shielding stood firm. Ahead, one of the alien vessels suddenly vanished from view. "Did they phase shift?" Jack asked, wrestling with the controls against the solar winds. "No," Lisa answered, checking the sensors. "Their quantum field collapsed. They had to drop out of the race. There goes another one. Their advanced systems can't handle these radiation levels." Tom leaned forward in his chair. "This is our chance." "Jack, remember those old solar sailing techniques we practiced?" "You mean the ones everyone said were obsolete?" Jack grinned, his hands moving across the controls. "Already on it." The Thunderchild turned its broadside to the solar wind, using the massive radiation pressure like an old sailing ship catching the wind. Their velocity increased dramatically as they rode the storm's power. 3 more quantum ships just dropped out, Lisa announced excitedly. "Their AI systems are going haywire in the magnetic interference. We're in the lead by a huge margin." Through the windows, they watched as another alien ship's quantum field flickered and died, forcing them to retreat. The advanced technology that everyone had praised was proving useless against the raw power of the stars. "Engineering to bridge," Mike's voice crackled. "You're not going to believe this, but our fusion drive is actually running at 110% efficiency. The solar radiation is adding to our power output." Tom smiled. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. While they tried to bend space and ignore physics, we learned to work with it. The Thunderchild surged forward, riding the solar winds like a skilled sailor navigating a storm. Their primitive technology, designed to work with natural forces rather than against them, was proving superior in the face of real challenges. "Message coming in from race control," Lisa said. They're asking us to help guide the remaining quantum ships through the storm. Our sensor data is more reliable than their quantum scanners." "Send them our nav data," Tom ordered. "Let's show them that humanity knows how to be good sports." As they transmitted their sensor readings to help the struggling alien ships, the crew of the Thunderchild felt a deep satisfaction. They hadn't just taken the lead. They'd proven that understanding basic principles could triumph over the most advanced technology. "Next up is the quantum storm section," Tom announced. "And for once, being primitive might be our biggest advantage yet." The Thunderchild emerged from the solar storm region, its hull glowing red from the intense radiation it had endured. Behind them, only 3 quantum ships remained in the race, their advanced systems barely functioning. "Engineering update." Mike's excited voice came through the intercom. "Captain, you need to see what's happening with our cooling system." "What is it?" Tom asked, noticing their speed was still increasing even though they'd left the solar winds behind. "The heat from the solar storm supercharged our radiator panels," Mike explained. "But here's the brilliant part. I've rerouted the excess heat energy back into our propulsion system. We're literally using waste heat as extra thrust." Lisa's sensors suddenly lit up with warnings. Quantum storm ahead. It's massive. Reality itself is warping in there. Through the front windows, they could see it. A writhing mass of distorted space where quantum effects had torn holes in normal physics. This was the final challenge, the part of the race where quantum ships were supposed to have the biggest advantage. The remaining quantum ships are catching up, Lisa reported. Their systems are designed for this kind of environment. Tom smiled. But they're forgetting something important. Mike, remember that crazy idea we had during training? The one about using our fusion drive's magnetic field as a quantum sensor. Mike laughed. Already on it, Captain. Routing the data to Jack's controls now. While the quantum ships prepared to navigate through the storm using their advanced technology, the Thunderchild's crew had developed their own solution. They used their fusion drive's powerful magnetic field to detect quantum fluctuations, turning their primitive engine into a sophisticated sensor. Here they come, Lisa warned as two quantum ships overtook them, their hulls distorting as they entered the quantum storm. Jack's hands moved steadily over the controls, following the magnetic sensor data. It's like reading waves on the ocean, he said. The quantum fluctuations create patterns. We don't need to calculate them. We can feel them. Inside the storm, reality bent and twisted. The quantum ships ahead tried to phase through the distortions, but their advanced systems struggled to handle the chaotic environment. Meanwhile, the Thunderchild rode the quantum waves like a surfboard, using the distortions to increase their speed. Look at this. Lisa pointed to her screen. The quantum ships are fighting against the storm. But we're flowing with it. Mike's voice crackled through again. Fusion drives holding steady. The magnetic field is actually getting stronger from interaction with the quantum effects. We're going faster than we've ever gone. Tom watched as they passed the first quantum ship, its hull flickering as it tried to maintain its phase field. Then they passed the second. The Thunderchild's primitive technology, guided by human intuition and understanding of basic physics, was outperforming the most advanced ships in the galaxy. Last stretch coming up, Lisa announced. You're not going to believe our speed. We're breaking every record in our class. Sometimes, Tom said proudly, you don't need to bend the rules of physics. You just need to understand them better than anyone else. The Thunderchild shot through the quantum storm, its fusion drive glowing bright, its human crew working together in perfect harmony. They weren't just winning a race anymore. They were revolutionizing space travel. The quantum storm began to thin out as the Thunderchild rocketed toward the final stretch. Only one alien ship remained close behind them, the Quantum Streak, pride of the Centauri Alliance and pre-race favorite to win. Quantum Streak is adapting to our strategy. Lisa called out, watching her sensors. They shut down their phase systems, and they're trying to copy our approach. Through the rear viewers, they could see the alien ship's quantum field collapse as it switched to more conventional propulsion. The Quantum Streak's captain had realized that sometimes older technology worked better. They're good, Tom admitted, watching the alien ship gain on them. But they're forgetting something important. Mike, how's our special modification doing? Ready when you need it, Captain. Mike's voice was excited. All that heat we stored from the solar storm. We can use it for one final boost. The finish line appeared ahead, a shimmering gateway between two space stations. The Quantum Streak was now right beside them, both ships neck and neck in the final sprint. They're pushing their engines to maximum, Lisa reported. Their hull temperature is reaching critical levels. Tom nodded calmly. That's the difference between us and them. They never learned how to handle heat. He pressed a button on his chair. Mike, show them what the Thunderchild can do. In engineering, Mike activated their secret weapon. All the excess heat their ship had absorbed and stored during the race. From the fusion drive, from the solar storm, from the friction of high-speed flight, was channeled through specially designed heat exchangers. The energy was converted directly into additional thrust. Thunderchild special coming right up. Mike shouted as he threw the final switch. The ship surged forward with incredible speed. Inside the quantum streak, alarms blared as their engines overheated, unable to match the Thunder Child's acceleration. They had never learned the art of heat management that Earth ships had mastered centuries ago. "Look at their faces," Lissa laughed, watching through the communication feed as the alien crew stared in disbelief. The Thunder Child's primitive fusion drive roared one last time, its blue flame burning bright against the darkness of space. They shot past the quantum streak, leaving the advanced alien ship struggling in their wake. "Finish line in 5 seconds," Jack called out, his hand steady on the controls. 4. The crew gripped their stations. 3. The heat exchangers glowed red-hot. 2. The fusion drive pulsed with power. 1. The Thunderchild crossed the finish line at record speed, its hull gleaming in the light of distant stars. The quantum streak followed several seconds later, an eternity in racing terms. "We did it," Lisa shouted, jumping from her station as cheers erupted throughout the ship. Tom smiled, looking at his crew with pride. "We didn't just win," he said. "We proved something that everyone had forgotten. Sometimes the old ways, the simple ways, are the best ways. You just have to understand them deeply enough." Through the windows, they could see camera drones and reporter ships rushing toward them. The story of how a primitive Earth ship had beaten the most advanced vessels in the galaxy would soon spread across the stars. But that wasn't what made Tom proudest. What mattered most was that they had won by understanding, not ignoring, the basic laws of physics. Sometimes, he thought, the universe rewards those who work with it rather than against it. The main hall of the Galactic Racing Federation was packed with beings from across the galaxy. At the center of attention stood the crew of the Thunderchild, their primitive ship having just destroyed every racing record in the books. "In all my centuries," announced Director Wilson, his 3 eyes still showing disbelief, "I have never seen such an impressive display of racing skill." He held up the golden trophy. "But before we present this, I must ask, how did you do it?" Tom stepped forward, his crew standing proudly behind him. "We didn't try to bend physics to our will," he explained. "We learned to work with it instead." Mike, still covered in engine grease, pulled out a simple diagram. "Look at our fusion drive. Everyone thought it was outdated technology. But we perfected it, understood it completely. While quantum drives fight against heat, we learned to use it." The alien engineers in the crowd leaned forward, suddenly interested. The quantum streak's captain, who had taken second place, nodded slowly in understanding. "Your ships are wonderful and advanced," Lisa added, "but they all rely on fighting against natural forces. Our primitive technology works with those forces instead." Jack stepped up next to his crewmates. "It's like trying to swim upstream," he said. "You can build a faster engine to fight the current, or you can learn to use the current to help you move." The hall buzzed with conversation as aliens discussed this simple but profound idea. Several engineers were already taking notes, rethinking their basic assumptions about spacecraft design. "There's more," Tom continued. "Every quantum ship had the same advanced AI, making the same perfect calculations. But sometimes perfect isn't practical. Sometimes you need human creativity and intuition." Director Wilson raised his hand for silence. "You have taught us all a valuable lesson," he said. "We became so focused on advancing technology that we forgot to master the basics." He smiled. "Perhaps it is we who were primitive, not you." The trophy ceremony began, but it was different from previous years. Instead of just accepting the award, the Thunderchild's crew was asked to share their knowledge. Mike found himself surrounded by alien engineers, all eager to learn about heat management. Lisa explained their sensor systems to wide-eyed technicians. "We're establishing a new category for future races," Director Wilson announced. "The innovation class, where ships must use fundamental physics in creative ways. No quantum fields allowed." Tom looked at his crew, seeing pride in their eyes. They hadn't just won a race. They had changed how an entire galaxy thought about technology. As the celebration continued, the crew of the Quantum Streak approached them. "We would be honored," their captain said, "if you would teach us your ways of understanding basic physics. Perhaps together we can create something even better." Tom shook the alien captain's hand. "That's the real victory today," he said. "Not that we won, but that we all learned from each other." Later, as the Thunder Child prepared for its journey home, the crew looked back at the space station. Their primitive ship had started a revolution in spacecraft design, proving that sometimes the best way forward is to fully understand what came before. "Ready to go home?" Tom asked his crew. They nodded, proud of what they had accomplished. As the fusion drive powered up, its steady hum now respected across the galaxy, they knew they had changed space travel forever. Sometimes, the simplest solutions were the most profound.